Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a good time here at Black Hat. This is the reverse engineering track. This talk is The Blue Screen of Death is Dead. Your presenter is Matthieu Suiche, memory expert, who would like you to know that he has just turned 21 and will gladly accept donations or drinks after his presentation. Without further ado.
Nice one. Just bring me a beer, that's enough. Okay, so to introduce me, I'm the founder of a company called MoonSols. As you can recognize in my accent, I am French, so my company is based in France. You can also contact me on Twitter if you want. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I've done a lot of various works regarding the Windows physical memory, not only on Windows, also on Mac OS X. So we will see in this talk every works I've done related to Windows physical memory. So what kind of people are really interested into memory dumps? So it's really easy. Please raise your hand if you have never used crash dump, even a core dump. This is ready? Oh. The crash dump is the Windows name for core dump. So in fact, this is exactly the same thing. So in this talk, we are only going to talk about full memory crash dump, so full memory core dump if you want, if you prefer. So memory dumps interest only kernel developers. When they have a bug in their driver, they got a crash dump, so they can analyze and retrieve the bug. Same thing for kernel troubleshooters. People who are looking for bugs, investigators, forensic experts, malware analysts, and people doing incident response. So why they are interested in memory crash dump? So it's really easy. For instance, you have the bug hunter. As you can see, it can be a man who just wrote a fuzzer in Python, like 10 lines. Actually, it was a friend who found a remote bug in SMB. So he was like, I just wrote a very tiny fuzzer. I got a remote BSOD. So just take a look at the crash dump. So this is the real life case. Of course, you have the kernel developers. If you do some kernel development, you know it's really boring. When you have a segmentation fault because your whole machine crashed, so it's really a pain to troubleshoot. And one of the most common is null pointer. You also have people with a different profile, investigator and forensic expert, who are looking at the memory to extract information. So let's say there is the inspector gadget who just made a memory dump of the Dr. Cloud computer, and you want to retrieve various information regarding Dr. Cloud. So like his Facebook or web activity. You can also retrieve the server where the Dr. Cloud was connected to. So let's say porn server or whatever. So it's also used by malware analysts. If you are too lazy to unpack, for let's say a driver, you can still use a memory dump, so you can still extract the image of the driver from the memory. And for instance, on Windows 7 64-bit, we can no longer use soft ICE, so it's really sad. So we need to find an alternative way. Microsoft has its own kernel debugger, which is Windows debugger. So it supports kernel debugging and crash dump analysis, so it's really great. And of course, people doing incident response. Let's say a machine just opened a PDF file. You didn't have time to get a copy of the file or one of the executable downloaded by the shellcode. Or let's say the executable downloaded by the shellcode had been removed from the server, but you have a memory snapshot of the target machine. You can still analyze the memory dump to retrieve the timeline of the attack. You can also retrieve the shellcode in memory, the PDF file used for the exploitation, and also the executable downloaded by the shellcode. So let's say you want to retrieve a memory of shellcode who is using hibspray, so it can be really easy because most of the time when you see an hibspray shellcode, there are really a lot of nup opcode. So it's always it's a static signature you can easily retrieve from the memory. So this talk is only focused on software acquisition, on software conversion, of course. So regarding the physical memory, there on Windows we have 4 main kinds of memory snapshot. The first one is the raw dump, when you want to access directly to the device physical memory. But you can only generate this kind of file by using third-party tools. The second way to get a memory dump on Windows is to use the hibernation file. It's present on Windows since Windows 2000, so you don't really need to install extra tools. And the third one is the Microsoft crashdump generated by the blue screen of diff. This one has a notable advantage. When you have a Microsoft crashdump, you can analyze it with Windows Debugger, which is not the case of a raw dump or an hibernation file. Or even if you have a server with Hyper-V or VMware, the physical memory is saved on disk when you are pausing the virtual machine. But you cannot analyze this memory snapshot with Windows Debugger. There are also physical way to access to the physical memory, of course. This thing had been already covered many times by a lot of people, so I'm not going to talk about this. Of course, you have the DMA access for the direct memory access by using the FireWire, the PCM, CIA, etc., etc. If you want to learn more about the physical attack or physical acquisition, I suggest you to refer to the VirtDBG talk of Damien Aumetre and Christophe Divine. Using an FPGA over a card bus, they are able to access to the physical memory, and they wrote their own debugger. So it's interesting to see how to access to the physical memory by using DMA access. But as I said, in this talk, I'm only going to talk about software-wise. The thing with software acquisition of the physical memory is you don't need to have any specific hardware, so it's way more easy. Yeah, unless you have a very unstable machine, but the only driver who are really unstable are the NVIDIA driver, so it's okay because we are not NVIDIA. With the software acquisition, we can retrieve the memory snapshot, for instance, with the hibernation file. The hibernation file is generated by Windows and it's never wiped. So even when we resume the machine, we still have a copy of the hibernation file. So we still have so in any case, we still have a way to retrieve snapshot of the physical memory, even if we don't run a specific software. And when you are using software, so it's just click and go, so it's really easy. Yes, with software acquisition, it can be really weak because you can. It's easy to lie to a driver, etc., etc. But it's a cat on the mouse game. So what works in a way works in the other way. So if people release something to bypass something, you can still fix it, and etc. So it works in both ways. But the thing with the software acquisition is that this is present everywhere. So there are more and more machines using the virtualization. So to get a physical memory dump, it's way more easy because the virtualization is almost everywhere now. So the physical acquisition is only funny when you want to impress some people, but in real life, the software acquisition is more stable and more used. So as I said, the virtualization is used almost everywhere. Every hypervisor does have a suspend feature. So when you are pausing a virtual machine, the hypervisor is making a copy of the physical memory of the virtual machine on the host disk. You can also, on every hypervisor, does have to maintain a copy of the physical memory even when the virtual machine is running. So it means you can still access to the physical memory even if the virtual machine is running. In the case of VMware, they have the VMM file, which is really famous. This file doesn't have a very specific file format, so it's like a raw dump. So we will see in the next part that it's really easy to convert. Unlike the Microsoft Hyper-V product, which use a very specific file format on compression. So in this talk, I'm only going to focus on the hibernation file, the Microsoft crash dump on the raw memory snapshot. What you have to remember is that the hibernation file is compressed, even if it's really easy to generate because it's a feature present on every Windows operating system. To analyze it is still a challenge because it's compressed, and we will see later it has a lot of different file formats. And to get a Microsoft crash dump, actually, we only have the blue screen of diff way, but we will see with the tools I'm going to present that is no longer the case. And we can still generate a raw memory dump. So let's say you are using the DD executable and you try to read the device physical memory device. You will have a raw dump of the physical address space. So all these three memory images does have a different file format. Only the Microsoft crash dump is really easy to analyze because it has a specific file format, and Microsoft is providing a tool to analyze it. And everybody is using a Microsoft crash dump, as I said at the very beginning, especially people who are looking for bugs or kernel developer or kernel troubleshooters. So again, we are going to focus only on the three circles, the raw dump, the hibernation file, and the Microsoft crash dump. We will see how to get a Microsoft crash dump from either a raw dump or an hibernation file. So here is a flowchart of the physical address space. So in fact, in the physical address space, you don't only have the physical memory, you also have the address space used by a device. The physical memory is in fact only the blue blocks,